My name is Patricia Lucas, and I'm 35 years old. 3 months ago, I spent $50,000 on a luxury European vacation for my parents' 40th anniversary. Business class flights, five-star hotels, the works. But when I arrived to drive them to the airport, my unemployed sister Jessica was sitting there with her suitcase, and my parents calmly announced she'd be taking my place. They actually said I was too successful to need a vacation, while Jessica had been struggling for 3 years without work. Standing at that JFK check-in counter, watching them board with tickets I'd paid for while hundreds of strangers stared at me with pity, I felt something inside me finally snap. What my family didn't know was that their public humiliation had just triggered a secret clause in my grandmother Eleanor's will, one that would cost them $3 million and change our family forever. Before we dive into what happened when they landed in Paris, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely want to hear how this story unfolds. I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is there. Drop it in the comments below. So let me take you back to where this all really began. 15 years of being treated like an ATM machine. For 15 years, I'd been the reliable one. Every month, like clockwork, $3,000 would leave my account. $1,800 for my parents' mortgage, $700 for their medical insurance, and $500 for whatever emergency Jessica had that month. As a senior software engineer pulling in $250,000 a year, I could afford it. But affordability wasn't the issue. "Patricia, honey, the transfer hasn't come through yet," my mother would call, always on the first of the month, never a day later. No, "How are you?" or "How's work?" Just straight to business. Meanwhile, Jessica lived in their basement, 3 years post-graduation, with an art history degree she'd never used. "I'm exploring my options," she'd say at family dinners, while scrolling through Instagram on the iPhone I'd bought her for Christmas. "The job market is just so tough right now." Tough? I wanted to laugh. I'd worked 3 jobs through college, graduated with $80,000 in student loans that took me 7 years to pay off. Nobody had paid my rent while I explored options. But here's what really stung. It wasn't about the money. It was the invisibility. At family gatherings, Mom would spend hours discussing Jessica's sensitive soul and artistic temperament, while my promotions, my achievements, my entire life got maybe a polite nod. "Your sister needs support," Dad would say whenever I'd hint at the unfairness. "You're strong. You don't need us the same way." Strong. That word had become my cage. Because strong daughters don't complain. Strong daughters don't need validation. Strong daughters just keep writing checks and showing up with a smile, even when they're dying inside. I'd accepted this role for so long, I'd almost forgotten there was another way to live. Almost. The only person who ever really saw me was Grandma Eleanor. While everyone else praised my silence as maturity, she called it what it was: fear. "Patricia, sweetheart," she'd said during what would be our last Christmas together, pulling me aside while the family fawned over Jessica's latest gap year plan. "You're worth more than what you can provide for others." Eleanor Hayes wasn't just my grandmother. She was a force of nature. Starting with nothing but a high school diploma and fierce determination, she'd built a successful import business in the 1970s, when most banks wouldn't even give women business loans. By the time she retired, Hayes International was worth millions. "Your mother never understood money," she'd confided that day, watching Mom slip Jessica another $100 bill for art supplies. "She sees it as love. But money without boundaries isn't love, Patricia. It's enabling." 2 years ago, Eleanor passed away suddenly from a heart attack. The funeral was beautiful, expensive. I paid for it naturally. As we stood by her grave, the lawyer mentioned she'd left a will with specific instructions, but the details would come later. Mom had waved it off, assuming the modest house would be sold and split equally. "Whatever Mom left, we'll handle it as a family," she'd said, squeezing Jessica's hand while barely glancing at me. But I'd noticed something odd. The lawyer, James Morrison from Morrison and Associates, had looked directly at me when he'd mentioned those specific instructions. And later, he'd slipped me his business card with just 4 words written on the back: "When you're ready, call." I'd kept that card in my wallet for 2 years, wondering what Eleanor had planned. Sometimes, late at night, I could almost hear her voice: "Every dog has its day, sweetheart, and yours is coming." 6 months ago, I decided to do something different. My parents' 40th wedding anniversary was approaching, and for once I wanted to give them something more than just another check. I wanted to create a memory. The planning became my secret joy. Every lunch break, I'd research hotels, compare flight times, read reviews of restaurants in Paris, Rome, and Barcelona. I wanted it perfect. The trip they'd always dreamed about, but never taken because Jessica might need something. The total came to $50,000. Business class flights for 3 5-star hotels, private tours, Michelin-starred restaurants. It was excessive, sure, but I'd never spent money on anything this extravagant. My apartment was modest, my car was 6 years old, and my idea of splurging was buying name-brand cereal. "You sure about this?" my friend Sophie had asked when I'd shown her the itinerary. Sophie ran a luxury travel company and had helped me get the best deals. "That's a lot of money for people who—" "Who what?" I'd challenged, though I knew what she meant. "Who don't always appreciate you," she'd finished gently, but I was sure. This would be different. This gift was so big, so thoughtful, so obviously from the heart. Surely this time they'd see me, really see me. I'd even practiced my announcement speech in the mirror, imagining their faces when they realized their responsible, boring daughter had planned something magical. Mom would cry. Dad would hug me. Maybe, just maybe, Jessica would even say something nice. The booking confirmations felt like hope in my inbox. 7 perfect days where I wouldn't be the ATM or the safety net. I'd be their daughter, walking through European streets, sharing meals, making memories that weren't about money but about time. God, I was so naive. The anniversary dinner was at their favorite Italian restaurant. I'd made reservations weeks in advance, even pre-ordered a special cake. My hands were shaking as I pulled out the envelope containing the tickets and itinerary. "Before we order," I started, my voice steadier than I felt, "I have something for you both." Mom barely looked up from her menu. "If it's about the mortgage payment, Patricia, we know it's coming." "No, Mom, this is different." I slid the envelope across the table. "Happy 40th anniversary." Dad opened it first, his eyes widening as he read. "Patricia, is this real?" "7 days in Europe," I said, the words tumbling out. "Paris, Rome, Barcelona, business class flights, 5-star hotels, everything's paid for. We leave in 2 weeks." For a moment, there was silence. Mom grabbed the papers, scanning them rapidly. Then she looked up, and for the first time in years, I saw genuine surprise in her eyes. $50,000? She whispered. "You spent $50,000? "It's your 40th anniversary," I said. "You deserve something special." That's when Jessica stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. Her face was flushed, eyes filling with tears. "Of course," she said, voice bitter. "Of course Patricia has to show off. Again." "Jessica?" Dad started, but she was already grabbing her purse. "You always have to make everything about you, don't you?" She glared at me. "Your big job, your big salary, and now your big gift. Some of us can't compete with that." She stormed out, leaving us in stunned silence. Other diners were staring. Mom immediately stood up. "I should go after her," she said, then looked at me with something I couldn't quite read. "She's been having a hard time lately." When wasn't Jessica having a hard time? The manipulation started subtly, the way it always did with my mother. 2 days after the dinner, she called while I was at work. "Patricia, honey, I'm worried about your sister." I stared at my computer screen, a complex code review waiting for my attention. "What's wrong now?" "She hasn't left her room since the dinner. She's so depressed. This job search has really broken her spirit." 3 years of job searching. Right. "Mom." The trip is for you and Dad, for your anniversary. I know. A pause. It's just seeing us leave for Europe while she's struggling. It might push her over the edge. Over the edge. The same phrase she'd used when Jessica needed a new car, when Jessica needed therapy, when Jessica needed space to find herself. The tickets are non-refundable, I lied. They actually weren't, but Mom didn't need to know that. Oh, I'm not saying cancel, Mom said quickly. Just, couldn't we maybe adjust things? Maybe Jessica could come too? You could get another ticket? Mom, it's business class. Do you know how much? Or maybe, another pause, longer this time. Maybe she could take your place, just this once? You're so busy with work anyway. And Jessica really needs this. A change of scenery might help her motivation. I felt my chest tighten. Take my place? On the trip I planned? That I paid for? Don't be selfish, Patricia. Family helps family. You know that. Selfish. The word hung between us like a weapon. I was selfish for wanting to join the vacation I'd spent $50,000 on. Meanwhile, Jessica, who hadn't worked a day in 3 years, needed a European vacation for her mental health. I'll think about it, I said, knowing I was already losing this battle. The day before departure, I went to help Mom pack. Maybe if I showed enough enthusiasm, reminded her this was our trip, she'd stop mentioning Jessica's fragile state. This dress would be perfect for dinner in Paris, I said, holding up one of Mom's nicer outfits. Oh, that old thing? Mom barely glanced at it. Jessica helped me order some new clothes online. She has such good taste. Everything circled back to Jessica. I pulled out my phone, showing Mom the restaurant reservations I'd made. Look, this place in Rome has a view of the Colosseum. I made sure to get the sunset seating. How thoughtful. She was folding clothes mechanically, not really listening. You know, Jessica studied art history. She'd know so much about these places. My jaw clenched. Well, good thing we can send her pictures. Mom stopped folding, giving me that look, the one that said I was being the difficult daughter again. Patricia, I need to ask you something. Here it came. Your sister is really struggling. This week she's barely eaten. She keeps saying how everyone else gets to have experiences while she's stuck. Stuck? She lives rent-free in your house? That's not the same as living, Mom said sharply. You wouldn't understand. You've never struggled. Never struggled? I wanted to scream. I'd worked since I was 15, put myself through college, paid off massive loans. But none of that counted as struggle because I'd done it quietly, without drama. The tickets are in my name, I said firmly. The hotels, the tours, everything. I'm going on this trip, Mom. She turned away, zipping up her suitcase with sharp movements. Of course you are. You always get what you want, don't you? The accusation hung in the air, poisonous and untrue. I arrived at my parents' house at 6 a.m., ready for our 11 a.m. flight. The sunrise was beautiful, and I'd actually felt optimistic driving over. Maybe Mom's coldness yesterday was just pre-travel stress. That optimism died the moment I walked into the living room. Jessica sat on the couch, dressed in designer jeans and a new sweater, a packed suitcase at her feet. Not the worn duffel bag she usually carried, a brand new expensive-looking suitcase. Morning, she said, not meeting my eyes. My parents stood by the kitchen doorway, both avoiding my gaze. Dad was fidgeting with his coffee mug. Mom had that determined set to her jaw that meant she'd made a decision and wouldn't be moved. What's going on? I asked, though I already knew. We need to talk, Mom said, using her reasonable voice, the one that always preceded something unreasonable. Patricia, sit down, Dad said gently. I remained standing. Why is Jessica packed? Because she's coming with us, Mom announced, as if stating the weather. To Europe. Instead of me? My voice was deadly calm. It's what's best for the family, Mom continued. You have work, responsibilities. Jessica needs this trip. She needs to heal, to find inspiration. I paid for this trip. And we're so grateful, Dad jumped in. But you can afford another vacation any time. This might be Jessica's only chance. Jessica finally looked up, and there was something in her eyes, not guilt, not gratitude, but a cold satisfaction. She'd won, again. "The reservations are in my name," I said. Mom pulled out her phone. Jessica called the airline. Since we're family, they said changes can be made at check-in. They'd planned this. While I was showing Mom restaurants, they'd been plotting to steal my trip. "You're seriously doing this?" I asked, my voice eerily steady. "You're taking the trip I planned, I paid for, and giving my spot to Jessica?" "Don't be dramatic," Mom said, but she wouldn't look at me. "It's just a vacation." "Just a vacation?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "It's a $50,000 vacation, Mom." "See?" Jessica spoke up, her voice dripping with false hurt. "It's always about money with you. Some of us value experiences over dollar signs." Experiences she never paid for. But I didn't say it. What was the point? "You're the older sister," Dad added, using his lecture voice. "You should want to help Jessica. Family makes sacrifices." "When has Jessica ever sacrificed anything for me?" "I sacrifice every day." Jessica stood up, performing for our parents. "Living in your shadow, watching you flaunt your success while I struggle to find my path." "Your path?" I turned to her. "Your path has been lying on the couch for 3 years while I pay for your life." "Patricia!" Mom's voice was sharp. "That's enough. We've made our decision. Jessica needs this more than you do. You have your job, your apartment, your life. She has nothing. Nothing except 2 parents who'd move heaven and earth for her." "You're really going to do this?" I said, not a question anymore. "You're going to take her to Europe on my dime?" "We're your parents," Mom said, as if that explained everything. "We know what's best for our children." I looked at each of them, Mom with her righteous certainty, Dad with his weak compliance, Jessica with her victorious smirk. "Okay," I said simply. "Let's go to the airport." They exchanged glances, surprised by my easy acceptance. They'd expected a fight. They had no idea what was coming. The drive to JFK was surreal. I gripped the steering wheel, eyes fixed on the road, while my family chatted in my car as if they hadn't just stabbed me in the back. "I can't wait to see the Eiffel Tower," Jessica gushed from the back seat, sitting between our parents like a cherished child. "I studied it extensively in my French art seminar." "You'll have to be our tour guide," Mom said warmly, reaching over to squeeze Jessica's hand. Patricia just booked things randomly. Randomly. 6 months of careful planning reduced to random. "The Louvre will be incredible," Jessica continued. "I hope the reservations Patricia made are flexible. I'll need at least a full day there." "Whatever you need, sweetheart," Dad assured her. Nobody asked how I felt. Nobody wondered if I was okay. I was just the driver, the wallet, the forgotten daughter behind the wheel. At a red light, I pulled out my phone and sent a quick text to someone. Just 3 words. "Execute Plan B." "Who are you texting?" Mom asked suspiciously. "Work," I lied, making sure they know I'll be available after all. "Good," she nodded approvingly. "It's important to be responsible." Responsible, that word again. Jessica got to be artistic and sensitive and struggling. I got to be responsible. Terminal 4 loomed ahead, buzzing with travelers. Perfect. The more witnesses, the better. "Premium parking?" Jessica asked as I pulled into the expensive lot. "Isn't that like $50 a day?" "70 actually," I said, taking the ticket. "But don't worry about it. I'm responsible, remember?" They didn't catch the edge in my voice. They never did. To them, I was just Patricia, reliable, boring, ATM Patricia who would always be there to clean up their messes. Time to teach them otherwise. The business class check-in line at JFK was packed with elegant travelers. Perfect. I guided my family to the queue, noting how Jessica's eyes widened at the luxury surrounding us. "Next!" The agent, a polished woman named Maria, waved us forward. I stepped up first, placing all 4 passports on the counter. "The Lucas family, reservation under Patricia Lucas." Maria began typing, then frowned slightly. I show 3 passengers for the flight to Paris? That's right, Mom said loudly, moving Jessica forward. My husband, myself, and our younger daughter Jessica. Our older daughter Patricia is just dropping us off. Several people in line turned to look. Maria's eyes flicked between me and the computer screen. But the credit card holder is Patricia Lucas? She asked carefully. Yes, I paid for everything, I said clearly, making sure my voice carried. $50,000 for my parents' anniversary gift. More heads turned. A woman behind us whispered to her husband. How generous, Maria said, her professional smile wavering slightly. And you're not going? My family decided my unemployed sister needed the vacation more, I said calmly, even though I planned it for 6 months as an anniversary surprise. The whispers behind us grew louder. Mom's face flushed red. Patricia, she hissed, stop making a scene. I'm just explaining the situation, I said innocently. Isn't that what happened? You're taking Jessica instead of me? An older couple in line shook their heads disapprovingly. A businessman actually said, Unbelievable. Maria looked deeply uncomfortable. I need to verify something with my supervisor. No need, I said smoothly, pulling out my phone. Everything's in order. They can absolutely fly to Paris. What they'd find when they landed? Well, that was another story entirely. At the security checkpoint, my family prepared to leave me behind. The contrast was striking, them with their business class tickets to Europe, me standing alone like an abandoned airport chauffeur. Jessica hugged our parents dramatically, as if she hadn't seen them 5 minutes ago. Mom stroked her hair, Dad patted her shoulder. A real family moment. Then Mom turned to me, her expression stern. Patricia, while we're gone, I need you to handle a few things. Of course she did. The mortgage payment is due on the 15th. Jessica's car insurance needs to be renewed, and check on the house every few days. Sure, Mom. I kept my voice neutral, while other travelers watched our goodbye with curious eyes. She leaned in closer, lowering her voice. And don't be petty about this. Your sister needs this experience for her portfolio. Her portfolio. 3 years unemployed, but sure, a European vacation would fix that. Dad gave me an awkward pat on the arm. You're a good daughter, Patricia. We knew you'd understand. Understand. That was rich. Jessica walked past me without a word, then stopped and turned back with a smirk. Thanks for the trip, sis. I'll send you postcards. No need, I said quietly. I'll be pretty busy the next week. Doing what? She laughed. Working? You're always working. I smiled for the first time that morning. A real smile. Something like that. As they walked toward security, I heard Mom tell another traveler, Our daughter is treating us to Europe. Isn't she sweet? She meant Jessica. The woman, assuming Jessica had paid, looked confused, glancing back at me standing alone. I pulled out my phone again, opening my recording app. Every word at check-in, perfectly captured. Time for phase 2. The moment they disappeared through security, I walked to a quiet corner and made the call I'd been planning for 2 weeks. Morrison and Associates, how may I direct your call? James Morrison, please. Tell him it's Patricia Lucas. One moment. I watched planes take off through the massive windows while I waited. Somewhere in this airport, my family was probably settling into the business class lounge, toasting with champagne I'd paid for. Patricia, James Morrison's warm voice came through. I've been expecting your call. They just went through security. The incident occurred exactly as predicted. You recorded everything? Video and audio, clear footage of them announcing to a crowd that they're taking Jessica instead of me, despite my paying for everything. Perfect. I heard papers rustling. That satisfies Clause 7.3 completely. Public humiliation and financial exploitation in front of witnesses. Clause 7.3. Grandma Eleanor's secret weapon. The Paris team is ready? I asked. My colleague at Rousseau and Partners will be at Charles de Gaulle when they land. The hotel cancellations will process the moment their plane takes off. And the money? $3 million will transfer to your account once we have confirmation of landing and document delivery. Your grandmother was very specific. The humiliation must be public, the consequences immediate. I thought about Eleanor, how she'd squeezed my hand that last Christmas. They'll never learn unless it costs them something real, she'd said. There's one more thing, James added. Your grandmother left you a letter. She wanted you to read it after you found your backbone, as she put it. I actually laughed. She knew this would happen? Eleanor Hayes knew her family very well. She also knew that strength sometimes needs the right moment to emerge. Send the letter to my apartment. I'll read it tonight. Sitting in my car in the airport parking lot, I watched their plane appear on the departure board. AF007 to Paris, boarding. My phone buzzed with an encrypted email from Morrison. Patricia, per our discussion, I'm confirming the activation of your grandmother's testamentary trust clause 7.3. As you know, Eleanor established this provision 2 years before her passing, after witnessing your parents' treatment of you at Thanksgiving 2019. The clause states, should my daughter Margaret Lucas and/or her husband Robert Lucas engage in public humiliation, financial exploitation, or emotional abuse of my granddaughter Patricia Lucas, documented with evidence, the designated $3,000 inheritance shall immediately transfer to Patricia, with Margaret and Robert forfeiting all claims. Your video evidence from today clearly shows public announcement of replacing you on a trip you funded, financial exploitation, using your resources while excluding you, emotional manipulation and humiliation before witnesses. The French legal team will serve papers upon landing. The hotel cancellations will process once airborne. As discussed, this is not vindictive action but natural consequences per Eleanor's explicit wishes. Your grandmother included a note in the trust documents. Patricia has been the family's foundation while being treated as furniture. It's time she learns that love without respect is not love at all. The full inheritance transfer will complete within 24 hours of paper service. James Morrison, Esquire. I read it twice, my hands surprisingly steady. Eleanor had been planning this for years, knowing exactly how her daughter would treat me after she was gone. She'd given them a chance to be decent, with $3 million as the stakes. All they'd had to do was treat me with basic respect. They couldn't even manage that. My phone buzzed again. Sophie. Flight tracker shows they're airborne. Canceling everything now. No turning back. Morrison and Associates occupied the entire 47th floor of a Manhattan high-rise. I'd been here once before 2 years ago when Grandma Eleanor had asked me to witness some documents. Now I understood why she'd wanted me familiar with the place. James Morrison looked exactly as I remembered. Silver-haired, kind eyes, expensive suit. His office walls were covered with photos of him with various clients, including one with Eleanor at some charity gala. Patricia, please sit. Can I offer you anything? Water? Coffee? I'm fine. I sat in the leather chair across from his massive desk, just ready to understand everything. He pulled out a thick folder. Your grandmother was a remarkable woman. She came to me 3 years ago, right after that Thanksgiving incident. When Mom gave my seat at the table to Jessica's boyfriend? And made you eat in the kitchen. Yes, Eleanor was furious. She said that was her breaking point. He pulled out a tablet, swiping to a video. She recorded this for you. Eleanor's face appeared on screen, strong and determined despite her age. Patricia, if you're watching this, it means they finally pushed you too far. Good. It's about time. My throat tightened, hearing her voice again. I'm leaving you more than money, sweetheart. I'm leaving you permission to stop being their doormat. The $3 million they're losing? That was their retirement fund, their security. Now it's yours. They made their choice. Jessica over you, manipulation over love. Let them live with it. The video continued, but James paused it. There's more, but she wanted you to watch the rest after everything is complete. How did she know they'd do something like this? Because, James said gently, they did it to her too. Margaret was always Eleanor's disappointment, but you were her hope. Have you ever been the family ATM, the reliable one who never gets appreciated? I know many of you watching can relate to this story. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, drop a comment below. Let's support each other. And please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because trust me, the story is about to take a massive turn. You won't want to miss what happens when they land in Paris. My phone rang as I left Morrison's office. Sophie Chen, my college roommate turned luxury travel CEO. Patricia, girl, you should see my team right now. They're calling this Operation Karma in the office. Despite everything, I smiled. You don't have to enjoy this so much. Are you kidding? After what they did to you at graduation? When your mom literally said Jessica would have done better if she'd had your opportunities? I've been waiting for this. I remembered that day. I'd graduated summa cum laude from MIT, and all Mom could talk about was how Jessica was too creative for traditional education. Everything's canceled? I asked. Every single thing! Sophie's voice was gleeful. The Four Seasons Paris, the Ritz-Carlton Rome, the Hotel Arts Barcelona. All canceled with your confirmation codes. The tours, the restaurant reservations, even the car services. They can't rebook? Not at those hotels. It's Fashion Week in Paris. There's a major conference in Rome. And Barcelona has that huge festival. Everything's booked solid. They'll be lucky to find a hostel. What about their return flights? Cancelled as of... She checked something. 2 minutes ago. They're essentially stranded unless they buy new tickets, which, at last-minute prices, will be about $8,000 each. I felt a twinge of something. Not guilt exactly, but concern. Sophie, they're still my parents. Who just stole $50,000 worth of vacation from you to give to your unemployed sister? Patricia, they literally stood in front of strangers and announced you weren't worth taking. That's not what parents do. She was right. Real parents would never. Besides, Sophie added, my contact at Air France says they're living it up in the business class lounge right now. Posted a selfie on Facebook. Caption says, off to Europe, thanks to our generous daughter. They meant Jessica, of course. The generous daughter who'd never worked a day in her life. I sat in a coffee shop near my apartment, laptop open to the flight tracker. AF007 had just taken off. 8 hours until they landed in Paris. 8 hours until reality hit them like a brick. My phone was already buzzing with Facebook notifications. Mom had posted photos from the business class cabin, Jessica posing with champagne. The comments were telling, wow, Jessica paid for all this? What a wonderful daughter. So generous. You raised her right. Patricia must be so proud of her sister's success. They all assumed Jessica had paid. Why wouldn't they? She was the one on the trip. I sipped my coffee and thought about Grandma Eleanor's words from years ago. We'd been sitting in the same coffee shop, actually, watching the rain. Boundaries aren't walls, Patricia, she'd said. They're bridges. They show people how to treat you properly. But if someone insists on disrespecting those boundaries, sometimes you have to burn the bridge. Even with family? I'd asked. Especially with family. They're the ones who can hurt you most. I pulled up my bank account. Still my usual balance, but tomorrow there would be $3 million more. $3 million that my parents had been counting on for retirement. Money Eleanor had wanted them to have, unless they proved they didn't deserve it. The barista refilled my coffee, glancing at my screen. Tracking someone's flight? My family, I said. They're going to Europe. Lucky them. Vacation? Something like that. I closed the laptop. More like a life lesson. She laughed, thinking I was joking. But Eleanor had taught me that the best lessons were the expensive ones. They were the only ones that stuck. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown French number. Ready to receive Lucas family at CDG. Documents prepared. Let the lesson begin. That evening, I found myself going through old photos of Grandma Eleanor. There was one from Thanksgiving 2019. The night everything changed. I remembered it perfectly. Jessica's boyfriend had shown up unexpectedly, and Mom had literally asked me to give up my seat at the main table. Patricia won't mind eating in the kitchen, she'd announced to everyone. She's so understanding. Eleanor had stood up, her voice cutting through the room like ice. If Patricia eats in the kitchen, so do I. Mom, don't be dramatic, my mother had said. Dramatic? Eleanor had laughed bitterly. Margaret, you just asked one daughter to eat alone, so your other daughter's boyfriend, who showed up uninvited, can sit at the family table. She'd taken her plate and mine, leading me to the kitchen. We ate together while listening to laughter from the dining room. This ends with me, she'd said quietly. I let your grandfather treat me like this. I let your mother learn it was acceptable. But it stops with you. It's fine, Grandma. I'm used to it. That's the problem. She'd gripped my hand hard. You're used to it, but I'm going to make sure that one day you won't have to be. 2 weeks later, she'd visited Morrison to change her will. I found another photo. Eleanor at her company's 25th anniversary. She'd built an empire from nothing, survived a husband who belittled her, raised a daughter who disappointed her. But she'd never stopped fighting. The letter Morrison mentioned had arrived. I held it, unopened, knowing that once I read it, this would all be real. No taking it back, no apologizing, no returning to being the family doormat. My phone showed they'd been in the air for 4 hours, 4 more until landing. I opened the letter. 8 hours and 17 minutes after takeoff, my phone exploded with messages. They'd landed. Mom, 3:47 a.m. Paris time. Patricia, what did you do? Dad, 3:48 a.m. The hotel says our reservation is canceled. This must be a mistake. Jessica, 3:49 a.m. The credit card isn't working. Mom, 3:52 a.m. A lawyer just approached us. At the airport. Patricia, answer your phone. I set my phone to silent and made myself breakfast. Scrambled eggs, toast, coffee. Normal morning routine while my family melted down 3,600 miles away. The texts kept coming. Mom, 4:15 a.m. They're saying something about Grandma's will. This is insane. Jessica, 4:16 a.m. Mom is crying in the airport bathroom. Dad, 4:20 a.m. Patricia, whatever you're angry about, this has gone too far. We're your parents. Then came the voice messages. Mom's was first, her voice shrill with panic. Patricia Lucas, you answer me right now. There's some French lawyer here with papers about Eleanor's money. He says we violated some clause? This is ridiculous. Fix this immediately. Jessica's was next, and for the first time in years, she sounded genuinely scared. Patricia, please. We're stuck at the airport. Everything's canceled. The hotel, the tours, even our flights home. Mom's having a panic attack. Dad's trying to figure out what's happening. Please, just call us back. Dad's message was the shortest. Princess, please. We're sorry. Whatever we did, we're sorry. Just help us. Princess. He hadn't called me that since I was 12, since before Jessica became the center of their universe. But sorry wasn't enough anymore. Eleanor knew that. Now they'd learn it too. At 5 a.m. Paris time, they managed a video call. I let it ring 3 times before answering. The screen filled with chaos. My parents looked haggard, exhausted. Jessica's makeup was smeared from crying. Behind them, the bright lights of Charles de Gaulle Airport and the curious stares of passing travelers. Patricia! Mom shrieked, causing people nearby to turn. What have you done? I haven't done anything, Mom. Grandma Eleanor, however, made some very specific arrangements. A man appeared in frame, elegant, French, carrying a leather portfolio. Madame Lucas, I am Henri Rousseau from Rousseau and Partners. I have explained the situation, no? This is insane, Dad protested. Our daughter can't just cancel our trip. Actually, I said calmly, I canceled my trip, the one I paid for. You chose to take Jessica instead of me, remember? But the will, Mom started. Ah yes, Henri interrupted smoothly. Clause 7.3 of Eleanor Hayes' testament, quite clear. The $3 million inheritance designated for Margaret and Robert Lucas is forfeit if they publicly humiliate or financially exploit their daughter Patricia. That's ridiculous, Jessica screamed. We didn't exploit anyone. You took a $50,000 vacation I paid for, I said evenly, after announcing to a crowd that I wasn't worth bringing along. Henri held up a tablet. We have video evidence from JFK Airport, multiple witnesses. The clause is ironclad. Mom's face went white. $3 million? Your retirement fund, I confirmed. The money Grandma left you, it's mine now. The airport bustled around them. A group of American tourists had stopped to watch the drama. One was definitely recording. You planned this, Mom whispered, realization dawning. You knew about the clause. For 2 years, I admitted. I hoped I'd never need it. $3 million, Dad repeated, his face aging 10 years in seconds. Patricia, that's everything. Our retirement, our future. Your future? I laughed, but it wasn't cruel, just tired. What about my future? The one where I work until I die to support you and Jessica. Henri cleared his throat, pulling out more documents. Perhaps I should clarify the full scope. Madam Eleanor Hayes left a total of $3.5 million. $3 million was designated for Margaret and Robert Lucas, contingent on good behavior. $500,000 was left directly to Patricia Lucas, no conditions. She left you money too? Jessica's voice was bitter. Of course she did. The $3 million, however, Henri continued, has now transferred to Mademoiselle Patricia, as per the clause. The transfer was completed. He checked his phone. 7 minutes ago. Mom sank onto an airport bench, her legs giving out. Around them, more people were gathering, sensing drama. Your grandmother, Mom said weakly. She couldn't have meant this. I pulled out Eleanor's letter, reading aloud. Margaret, if you're hearing this, it means you've finally pushed Patricia too far. I gave you every opportunity to treat both your daughters fairly. This consequence is not Patricia's doing, it's yours. You chose favoritism over fairness. Now live with your choice. That's not... We love both our daughters, Dad protested. Really? I asked. Name one time in the last 5 years you've celebrated my achievements. One time, you've chosen me over Jessica. Silence. Even Jessica looked uncomfortable. Name one time, I continued, you've asked about my life without wanting money. More silence. The French travelers watching were shaking their heads. One woman muttered Mon Dieu in disgust. We're your parents, Mom whispered. You can't do this. I'm not doing anything. I'm just not fixing it anymore. Then something unexpected happened. Jessica turned on our parents. This is your fault, she screamed at Mom, causing even more people to stare. You made me come. I didn't even want this trip. Jessica, Dad gasped. No, I'm done. She was fully crying now, mascara streaming. You forced me into this position. Poor Jessica needs a vacation. Poor Jessica is so fragile. I wanted to get a job. You told me not to rush. Mom's mouth opened and closed like a fish. We were protecting you. You were controlling me. Jessica spun to face the phone. Patricia, I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. They've made me the baby for so long I forgot how to be an adult. Don't you dare! Mom hissed at Jessica. Don't you dare apologize to her. Why not? Jessica laughed hysterically. Because she finally stood up to you? Because perfect Patricia, who pays for everything, finally said enough? The crowd around them was growing. An American couple was translating for French onlookers. Security guards were starting to notice the commotion. 3 years, Jessica continued. 3 years you've kept me dependent. Every time I tried to get a job, you said I wasn't ready. Every time I wanted to move out, you said I needed to save more. But how could I save with no job? We were helping you, Mom insisted. You were using me, Jessica shot back, as a weapon against Patricia. You're proof that she was the cold one, the unfeeling one, while I was the sensitive daughter who needed protection. Henri stepped back, clearly uncomfortable with the family drama exploding in the international terminal. I want out, Jessica said suddenly. Patricia, when I get home, if I get home, I'm getting a job. Any job. I'm done being their excuse. I took a deep breath, looking at my family falling apart in the Paris airport. Time to be the adult, one last time. Here's what's going to happen, I said, my voice cutting through their chaos. Henri, are you recording? Oui, mademoiselle. Good. Mom, Dad, Jessica, listen carefully because I'm only saying this once. I paused, making sure I had their attention. I will buy you economy tickets home, one way. They'll be available at the Air France counter in 1 hour. Patricia, Mom started. I'm not finished. The condition is this. You record a video, right now, in that airport, acknowledging what you did. The truth. That you took Jessica on a trip I paid for, that you've treated me like an ATM for 15 years, and that you chose favoritism over fairness. You want us to humiliate ourselves? Dad asked. Like you humiliated me at JFK? Yes, exactly like that. This is blackmail, Mom spat. No, Henri interjected. This is a generous offer. She has no obligation to help you at all. You have 24 hours to decide, I continued. After that, you find your own way home. And just so we're clear, the monthly payments stop now. The mortgage, insurance, Jessica's expenses, all done. You can't, Mom began. I can and I am. I've been paying your bills while you plan to steal my vacation. That ends today. Jessica stepped forward. I'll do it. I'll record the video. Jessica, no! Mom grabbed her arm. I'm 28 years old. Jessica yanked free. I should be ashamed, not proud, of being unemployed this long. Security was definitely approaching now. Henri muttered something in French about American family drama. 24 hours, I repeated. Henri will send you the details. Within 2 hours, the video from JFK went viral. Someone in the business class line had posted it to TikTok with the caption, Woman pays $50K for parents' Europe trip, they take unemployed sister instead. Watch the karma. The comments were brutal but validating. The audacity of these parents. That poor woman standing there while they board her trip. Please tell me there's a part 2. Then someone posted the airport meltdown from Paris. An American tourist had captured the whole thing, complete with Henri serving papers and Jessica's breakdown. It hit Reddit's front page within hours. My phone rang. It was Sophie. Patricia, you're trending on Twitter. What? Hashtag family karma. Hashtag ATM daughter. Someone found your mom's Facebook post claiming Jessica paid for everything. The internet is destroying them. I pulled up Facebook. Mom's celebratory posts from the business class lounge now had hundreds of comments. Your other daughter paid for this, you liar. Imagine being this entitled to your child's money. Patricia, if you're reading this, we support you. Our cousin Linda had posted. For anyone wondering, this is 100% true. They've been treating Patricia like a wallet for years while spoiling Jessica. Team Patricia. More family members started chiming in. Apparently, I wasn't the only one who'd noticed the favoritism. Uncle Robert wrote, Margaret did the same thing to their mother, Eleanor. History repeating itself. Aunt Susan added, Remember graduation? Patricia got into MIT and all Margaret talked about was how Jessica was too creative for college. Disgusting. The public shaming was complete. Mom's phone was probably exploding with notifications. Their return to the States would be a social nightmare. But I didn't feel victorious. Just free. Finally free. The next 24 hours were documented through Jessica's Instagram stories. She'd gone rogue, posting everything despite Mom's protests. Story 1, a selfie at 2 a.m., sitting on the airport floor. When you realize your parents used you as a weapon against your sister for years. Story 2, Mom sleeping on airport chairs. She spent my whole life telling me I was too fragile to work. Turns out she needed me weak. Story 3, Dad trying to buy coffee with euros he'd exchanged. We have exactly 200 euros between us. Coffee is 5 euros. Math isn't mathing. Story 4. A video of Mom arguing with an airline agent. No, we can't afford 3 last-minute tickets to New York. They're $8,000 each. By hour 18, they looked destroyed. Mom's perfect hair was greasy. Dad's business class outfit was wrinkled, and Jessica had removed her makeup entirely, looking younger and somehow more honest than I'd seen her in years. Then came the video that changed everything. Jessica went live on Instagram. 3,000 people joined immediately. Hi everyone, I'm Jessica Lucas. You probably know me as the spoiled sister in the viral airport video. I want to tell you the truth. Mom tried to grab the phone, but Jessica walked away. For 3 years, I've been unemployed, not because I couldn't find work, but because my parents convinced me I wasn't ready. Every interview I got, they found a reason I shouldn't take it. Too stressful, too far, not creative enough. The comments flooded in supporting her. They needed me dependent because it made my sister Patricia look cold by comparison. She paid our bills while they told everyone she was heartless for not doing more. She looked directly at the camera. Patricia, if you're watching, I'm sorry, and I'm done being their excuse. At hour 23, they finally broke. Henri sent me the video. They stood in the same spot where they'd been served papers, looking like completely different people from the confident travelers who'd left JFK. Dad spoke first, his voice hoarse. My name is Robert Lucas. Yesterday, my wife and I took a European vacation paid for by our daughter Patricia. We gave her seat to our other daughter, Jessica. It was wrong, Mom added, barely audible. We've been wrong for years. But it wasn't enough. They were apologizing for the trip, not the pattern. Do it again, I told Henri over the phone. The whole truth this time. Take two was rawer. We've treated Patricia like an ATM, Mom admitted, tears streaming. 15 years of taking her money while favoring Jessica. We justified it by saying Patricia was strong, successful. But really, we just took her for granted. We failed as parents, Dad said simply. Both daughters. We turned Patricia into a bank and Jessica into a child. Neither deserved that. Jessica stepped into frame. I'm complicit too. I let them use me as an excuse to hurt my sister. I accepted the favoritism because it was easier than growing up. The French travelers walking past looked confused but sympathetic. Even without understanding English, they could recognize a family confession. Patricia, Mom looked directly at the camera. I don't expect forgiveness, but you deserved better. From day one, you deserved better. We're sorry, Dad added. Not because we're stranded, not because we lost the money, because we lost you. And we didn't even notice until it was too late. Henri sent me the video. Is this sufficient? It was the first honest thing they'd said in years. Book their flights, I said quietly. Economy, middle seats? They flew back 11 hours in economy middle seats. Jessica posted one last story, a photo of their tickets. Going home to face reality. Time to grow up. I tracked their flight but didn't go to the airport. Sophie went instead, curious to see the aftermath. You should have seen them, she told me later. Your mom looked 10 years older, your dad was completely silent, and Jessica, she actually looked relieved. Relieved? Like a weight had been lifted. She told me she already had 3 job interviews lined up. Retail, receptionist, coffee shop, didn't matter. She just wanted to work. They took the subway home from JFK. No one offered to pick them up. The family group chat had been silent since Aunt Susan posted, "You reap what you sow." Mom texted me once they got home, "We're back. The house feels empty." I didn't respond. The house had been empty for years. Empty of respect, empty of real love, empty of fairness. They just hadn't noticed because I'd been filling it with money. Dad sent an email with a spreadsheet. I calculated what we owe you. It's $637,000 over 15 years. I know we can never repay it. He was right. It wasn't about the money anymore. Jessica was the only one who called. I got the coffee shop job, she said quietly. Minimum wage, but it's mine. I earned it. Good for you, I meant it. Patricia, I know you might never forgive us, but I want you to know. I see it now. All of it. How they broke you down while building me up. It was sick. It was family, I corrected. Our family, anyway. Maybe we can build a different kind of family. Someday. If you're willing. Maybe. But not today. 2 weeks later, Jessica asked to meet me. Not at our parents' house. At a neutral coffee shop in Manhattan. She looked different. Her designer clothes replaced with simple jeans and a work polo from the coffee shop. No elaborate makeup, no perfectly styled hair. She looked real. I've been working for 10 days, she started, fidgeting with her cup. Made $12,200 before taxes. It's nothing compared to what you make, but Patricia, it's mine. I earned it. How does it feel? Exhausting, liberating, terrifying. She laughed nervously. I'm 28 and just learning how to be an adult. It's pathetic. It's progress. She pulled out an envelope, sliding it across the table. It's not much, $500, toward what I owe you. I pushed it back. You don't owe me money, Jessica. Yes, I do. 3 years of expenses, clothes, that car. That was Mom and Dad's manipulation, not your debt. She shook her head. I knew what was happening. Every time Mom said you were cold, unfeeling, too focused on money, I knew it was because you were paying for my life. I let them use me as proof that you were the bad daughter. A customer recognized her from the viral videos, whispering to their friend. Jessica noticed but didn't shrink away. I'm seeing a therapist, she continued. Paying for it myself. She says we were both abused, just differently. You were neglected and exploited. I was infantilized and weaponized. Weaponized, I repeated. That's accurate. I want a relationship with you, a real one, not based on money or parents or manipulation, just sisters, if that's possible. For the first time in years, I saw my little sister. Not the golden child, not the eternal baby, just Jessica trying to grow up. Maybe, I said. Let's start with coffee. A month after Paris, Uncle Robert called a family meeting. This has gone on long enough, he said. We need to address this. The entire extended family gathered at his house. 23 people who'd watched our drama unfold on social media. Mom and Dad sat on one couch, isolated. Jessica sat separately. I chose a chair by the door. Uncle Robert stood. Margaret, Robert, what you did was unconscionable. We've all watched you favor Jessica while treating Patricia like a bank for years. But this Paris incident? That was cruel. We've apologized, Mom said defensively. Have you? Aunt Susan challenged. Or did you apologize because you got caught, because you lost $3 million? That's not. I was there at Patricia's MIT graduation, Cousin Linda interrupted. You spent the entire ceremony talking about how Jessica was too creative for traditional education. Your daughter was graduating from MIT, and you made it about Jessica. We were supporting both daughters, Dad protested. No, Uncle Robert said firmly. You were exploiting one and crippling the other. Eleanor saw it. We all saw it. Patricia was the only one strong enough to stop it. She took our retirement, Mom cried. Eleanor took your retirement, Aunt Susan corrected. Because she knew you'd never stop otherwise, just like you never stopped taking from her. The room fell silent. This was news to most of us. Oh, you didn't know? Aunt Susan continued. Margaret did the same thing to Eleanor. Took money for years while favoring her brother Thomas. Why do you think Thomas isn't here? Eleanor cut him off 20 years ago. Mom's face went white. The pattern exposed, generational trauma laid bare. Patricia, Uncle Robert turned to me. What do you need from this family? Boundaries, I said simply. Clear, firm boundaries. I stood up, addressing the room but looking at my parents. Here are my terms if you want any relationship with me going forward. Mom started to speak, but I held up my hand. Let me finish. First, I will pay your mortgage directly to the bank. Not to you, never to you. This isn't generosity, it's preventing homelessness. The moment you refinance or sell, my obligation ends. Second, health insurance will be paid directly to the provider. Basic coverage only. No dental, no vision, no extras. That's all? Dad asked hopefully. Third, I continued, you will attend family therapy, weekly. I've already found a therapist who specializes in financial abuse and family dynamics. You'll go, or the mortgage payments stop. You can't force us, Mom started. I'm not forcing anything. These are my boundaries. Accept them or don't. Fourth, Jessica is not my responsibility. She's an adult with a job now. She pays her own way. Jessica nodded. Already started apartment hunting. Found roommates. Fifth, I took a breath. No more family events for me this year. I need space to heal. Don't call, don't text, don't show up at my apartment. For how long? Mom whispered. Until therapy helps you understand why what you did was wrong. Really understand, not just say the words. Uncle Robert nodded approvingly. These are reasonable boundaries, Margaret. Reasonable? Mom's voice cracked. She's cutting us off. No, I corrected. I'm giving you a chance to earn a relationship with me. One based on respect, not money. That's more than you gave me. We're your parents, Dad said weakly. Yes, I agreed. And for the first time in my life, you'll have to act like it. Wow, are you still with me? This story is about to reach its conclusion, and trust me, you'll want to hear how it ends. If you think Patricia handled this correctly, give this video a like. If you think she was too harsh, let me know in the comments. Has your family ever played favorites? Share your story below. We're all in this together. And remember to subscribe for more stories about family dynamics and setting boundaries. That evening, James Morrison called with something unexpected. Patricia, there's another letter from your grandmother. She specified it should be delivered 1 month after the clause was activated. The letter arrived the next day, Eleanor's handwriting still strong despite her age when she wrote it. My dearest Patricia, if you're reading this, you've finally stood up to them. Good. But now comes the harder part, understanding why. Your mother wasn't born cruel. She was born second. My mistake was favoring Thomas because he was the son I thought I needed for the business. Margaret spent her childhood watching me pour everything into her brother while she got scraps. Sound familiar? When Thomas failed, drugs, gambling, 3 divorces, I cut him off. But by then, Margaret had learned the pattern. She married Robert, had you, and seemed happy. Then Jessica came along, premature, fragile, and Margaret saw her chance to be the favored parent she never had. She recreated our dysfunction, casting you as herself and Jessica as the Thomas who would finally succeed. Except Jessica didn't fail like Thomas. She was never allowed to. They kept her weak to keep her close. This isn't an excuse. It's an explanation. Margaret chose to continue the cycle instead of breaking it. But you, my brave girl, you've broken it. The 3 million ensures they can't do this to Jessica's children or yours. I'm proud of you. Not for taking the money, but for taking your power back. Your mother may never understand that difference, but you do. Live freely now. Love freely. The chain is broken. All my love, Eleanor. I sat with the letter for hours, understanding finally why Eleanor had orchestrated all of this. It wasn't punishment, it was prevention. The cycle stopped here. 3 months later, Dr. Sarah Winters contacted me. Your parents have asked if you join one session, just one. They have something to say. I almost refused. But curiosity won. The therapy office was neutral, beige, safe. Mom and Dad looked smaller somehow, older. 3 months of actual self-reflection had changed them. Patricia, Dr. Winters began, your parents have been working to understand the dynamics that led to the Paris incident. It wasn't just Paris, Mom said quietly. It was 18 years of Paris. That was unexpected. I did to you what my mother did to me, she continued, voice shaking. Except worse, because I knew how it felt to be the unfavored child. I knew, and I did it anyway. Dad spoke next. I enabled it, every time, because confrontation was harder than compliance. Tell her about the notebook, Dr. Winters prompted. Mom pulled out a worn spiral notebook. I've been documenting every time we chose Jessica over you. Every time we took your money while criticizing you for having it. It's 73 pages so far. 73 pages of favoritism. Why? I asked. Because Dr. Winters says we can't change what we don't acknowledge, Dad answered. And we never acknowledged any of it. You were so capable, so strong, we told ourselves you didn't need us. But really, Mom added, tears falling, we needed you to not need us. Because if you needed us, we'd have to be parents to both daughters. And we'd already given everything to Jessica. Not everything, Dr. Winters corrected. You gave Jessica attention, and Patricia gave her money. Neither of you gave either daughter what they actually needed. Unconditional love with healthy boundaries. The truth sat heavy in the room. 2 damaged daughters, 2 failing parents, and decades of dysfunction between us. After the therapy session, James Morrison requested another meeting. There's more to your grandmother's estate, Patricia. We sat in his office as he pulled out document after document. The $3 million was just the cash portion. Eleanor also left you her investment portfolio, currently valued at $2 million. There's the commercial property in Queens generating $15,000 monthly in rent, and her house in the Hamptons. I stared at the papers. That's $8 million total. 8.3 actually. Your grandmother was very successful and very smart about investments. Why didn't you tell me before? Eleanor's instructions were specific. The $3 million drama had to play out first. She wanted you to stand up for principle, not money. Only after you set boundaries based on self-respect, not wealth, would you learn about the rest. $8 million. I could quit my job, travel the world, never speak to my family again. There's one condition, James added. Eleanor wanted you to use some of this wealth to help other women in similar situations. She started a foundation blueprint, supporting daughters who are financially abused by their families. The Eleanor Hayes Foundation for Financial Independence. She'd thought of everything. Your mother doesn't know about this additional inheritance, James noted. Eleanor felt that knowledge would only increase the manipulation. He was right. If Mom knew I had $8 million, she'd never stop justifying why she deserved it. What about Jessica? I asked. There's a provision. If Jessica maintains employment for 2 continuous years and completes therapy, she receives $100,000 for a fresh start. Not from your portion, Eleanor set it aside separately. Even in death, Eleanor was teaching us. Jessica had to earn her independence, and I had to learn my worth, exceeded any dollar amount. 6 months after Paris, Jessica had kept her coffee shop job and moved into a shared apartment in Brooklyn. She called asking to meet, sounding different. Tired, but proud. I wanted to show you something, she said, pulling out her phone. Her banking app showed $3,200 in savings. 6 months of work. I've never had my own money before. How does it feel? Like freedom, she said simply. Like I can breathe. We sat in silence, 2 sisters separated by years of manipulation, finally finding neutral ground. I know about Grandma's provision, she said suddenly. The $100,000 if I work for 2 years. I tensed. How? Mom found out somehow. She called yesterday. Told me I should sue you for it immediately. Said I was entitled to it. And? Jessica laughed, actually laughed. I hung up on her, can you believe it? 28 years old, and I finally hung up on our mother. What about the money? I'll earn it, she said firmly. 18 more months of work. I want to earn it, Patricia. I need to. Otherwise, I'm just the same dependent child, just with a different benefactor. This was the sister I'd never known existed, one with pride, determination, self-respect. I'm proud of you, I said, meaning it. I'm proud of you too. For Paris. For everything after. You saved us both, you know. Me from eternal childhood, you from eternal servitude. Eleanor saved us. No, Jessica disagreed. Eleanor gave you tools. You chose to use them. That took courage I didn't know you had. We weren't friends yet. Maybe we'd never be. But we were finally sisters. Equal, independent sisters. That was enough. 6 months after the therapy session, my phone rang. It was Dad. I know we're not supposed to contact you, he said quickly, but I wanted you to know your mother got a job. I nearly dropped my coffee. What? Part-time at a craft store, minimum wage. She says she needs to understand what working feels like. Mom, working, after 25 years of being a housewife by choice. And I'm driving Uber, Dad added. Evening shifts. We're trying to understand what you and now Jessica go through, the exhaustion, the pride in earning. Why are you telling me this? Because Dr. Winters says we can't expect forgiveness, but we should show change. Real change, not words. They were actually trying. It didn't erase the past, but it was something. How's Jessica? I asked, testing the waters. Thriving. She got promoted to shift supervisor. She's dating someone, a teacher. She pays for her own dates. It's strange but good. Normal. It sounded normal. Patricia, Dad's voice cracked. I know we don't deserve another chance. But we're different now. The therapy, losing the money, nearly losing both daughters. It changed us. I'm not ready, I said honestly. Maybe someday, but not yet. We understand. We'll keep going to therapy. Keep working. Keep trying to be the parents we should have been. After I hung up, I thought about cycles. Eleanor and Mom. Mom and me. Maybe somewhere in this mess, we could build something new. Not perfect, not close, but functional. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Sent you $50. I know it's nothing compared to what we took, but it's my first earned money in 25 years. I wanted you to have it. I stared at the Venmo notification. $50 from Margaret Lucas. The beginning of accountability. A year after Paris, Jessica graduated from her restaurant management certification program, paid for entirely by herself through work and loans. She invited me. Please come. You're the only family I want there. The ceremony was small, held at the community college. Jessica walked across the stage in a simple cap and gown, accepting her certificate with genuine pride. No fancy MIT graduation like mine, but somehow this felt bigger. Afterwards, she found me in the crowd. They wanted to come, she said, meaning our parents. I told them no, this was mine. How did they take it? Mom cried. Dad understood. They're different now, Patricia. Still flawed, but trying. We went to lunch. She insisted on paying. I make $42,000 a year now, she said proudly. It's not tech money, but it's mine. You earned it. I wanted to tell you something, she said, suddenly serious. I've been seeing Mom and Dad once a month, supervised by Dr. Winters. They're broken. In a good way, if that makes sense. Like they finally see the damage they caused. Are you asking me to forgive them? No, God, no. I'm saying I forgive them. For me, not them. But your journey is yours. She pulled out an envelope. This is for you. Inside was a check for $5,000. It's a start on what I owe you. Jessica, you don't... I do. Let me do this. Let me be the sister who pays you back, even if it takes 20 years. I looked at my little sister, employed, independent, proud. This was who she could have been all along if our parents hadn't stunted her growth to wound me. Okay, I said, accepting the check. Thank you. No, Patricia, thank you. For Paris. For everything. You freed us both. The Eleanor Hayes Foundation for Financial Independence launched on the second anniversary of Paris. I'd spent months working with lawyers, therapists, and financial advisors to create something meaningful. The foundation offered emergency funds for women leaving financially abusive families, therapy vouchers for dealing with family financial trauma, legal aid for those fighting inheritance manipulation, workshops on setting financial boundaries. The launch event was small but powerful. 20 women who'd experienced similar situations came to share their stories. My parents drained my college fund for my brother's third business failure. I paid my family's bills for 10 years while they called me selfish. My sister got a house. I got told I was too successful to need help. Each story echoed mine. Eleanor had known this was bigger than just our family. Sophie attended, now a board member. Your grandmother would be proud. She planned all of this, I realized. Not just the money, but the purpose after. James Morrison delivered another letter that day. Eleanor's last one. Patricia, by now you've learned that wealth means nothing without wisdom, and wisdom means nothing without action. The foundation is my true legacy through you. Every woman you help break free from financial abuse is a victory over the patterns that plagued our family. Your mother was my greatest failure and my deepest regret. But you, my dear, are my redemption, not because you took the money, but because you'll use it to ensure other daughters don't suffer in silence. Break the cycles, all of them. Eleanor. That night, I approved our first grant, $10,000 to a woman whose parents had taken her identity and destroyed her credit. She cried on the phone, saying it was the first time anyone had believed her story. This was Eleanor's real gift, not the millions, but the mission. 2 years after Paris, I decided to test the waters. A small trip, just a weekend in Vermont. All four of us, but with new rules. Everyone pays their own way, I said when proposing it. Split evenly, no exceptions. Mom and Dad agreed immediately. Jessica was hesitant. Can we really do this? Be a family again? We were never a family before, I said. Maybe we can be one now. The trip was awkward at first. We stayed at a modest inn, ate at local diners, hiked easy trails. No luxury, no drama, just four adults trying to navigate new dynamics. I brought sandwiches, Mom announced on our hiking day, pulling out a carefully packed lunch. I made your favorite, Patricia, if I remembered correctly. She had turkey, Swiss, mustard, no mayo. A small thing, but it meant she'd been paying attention. Jessica had saved up to treat us to dinner one night. My promotion bonus, she said proudly. I wanted to share it. Dad talked about his Uber passengers, finding joy in the strangest stories. I drove a woman to the airport yesterday. She was flying to see her daughter after 5 years of estrangement. She said forgiveness isn't instant, it's earned in moments. That night, we played cards in the inn's common room. Other families were there, normal families with normal dynamics. We weren't that. We'd never be that. But we were something. I'm glad we did this, Mom said quietly as we packed to leave. Not because I think everything's fixed, but because now I know it's possible to be different. Different is good, I agreed. We drove home separately, boundaries still firmly in place. But for the first time in years, I didn't dread the next family interaction. Progress, not perfection. On the third anniversary of Paris, James Morrison called with surprising news. There's one final letter from Eleanor. She specified it should be delivered only after true reconciliation began. The letter was shorter than the others, but more powerful. My dearest family, if Patricia is reading this aloud, it means you found your way back to each other. Not as you were, but as you should have been. Margaret, my daughter, I failed you. I chose your brother over you every day of your childhood. You learned that love was finite, that one child's gain meant another's loss. I taught you that, and I'm sorry. Robert, you married into dysfunction and chose comfort over courage. Standing up to Margaret would have saved both your daughters years of pain. Jessica, you were a weapon they didn't know would backfire. Being the favorite is its own prison. Patricia, you were the sacrifice they didn't know would cost them everything. But here's what I learned too late. Love isn't pie. One person getting more doesn't mean another gets less. Love multiplies when given freely, shrinks when hoarded selfishly. If you're together now, it means you've learned this. The money was never the point. It was the catalyst. The real inheritance is the chance to be a family without transactions, without favorites, without debt. Be patient with each other. Healing happens slowly, but it does happen. With all my love and hope, Eleanor. Mom was crying. Dad held her hand. Jessica reached for mine. Read it again, Mom whispered. So I did. And for the first time, we weren't the Lucas family divided by money and manipulation. We were just four people, trying to learn how to love each other correctly. It wasn't perfect. It might never be. But it was real. Today marks 5 years since Paris. I'm sitting in my apartment, not the modest one from before, but a beautiful space I bought with Eleanor's money. A space where my family is welcome, but only on my terms. Mom and Dad come for dinner once a month. They bring dessert from Mom's job at the bakery where she now works full-time. She's the oldest new employee they've ever had, but also the most determined. Jessica joins us sometimes with her husband Mark. She's pregnant now, planning to work until the day she delivers. I want my daughter to see her mother earning, she says. The boundaries remain firm. No money discussions unless I initiate, no comparisons between sisters, no guilt about the past, no expectations beyond basic respect. Sometimes Mom slips, starts to ask for something, then catches herself. Old habits, she apologizes. Sometimes I have to leave early when the dynamics feel too familiar. They understand now. Boundaries aren't punishment, they're protection. The foundation has helped 200 women escape financial abuse. Each success story heals something in me. Eleanor's legacy lives not in the millions she left, but in the cycles we've broken. Last week, a woman called the foundation. My parents just gave my college fund to my brother, she sobbed. Everyone says I'm selfish for being upset. You're not selfish, I told her. You're valuable, and we're going to help you prove it. This is my life now, wealthy but wise, connected but protected, loving but limited. My family learned that love without respect is manipulation. I learned that forgiveness without boundaries is self-destruction. Together we learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say no, and that's enough. Finally, it's enough. Thank you for staying until the end. This story reminds us that setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's self-preservation. Do you think Patricia handled it correctly? Or should she have forgiven sooner? Let me know in the comments below. If this video helped you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more stories about family dynamics, boundaries, and finding your worth beyond what you provide for others.